Hey everybody, so nice to see you all today. It's Thursday night, Artists on Lockdown, Hangin' and Bangin'. I'm your host, Ron Onesti from Rock and Roll Heaven here, right outside of Chicago in St. Charles at the Arcada Theater. And I am so excited tonight, every night. I mean, this is episode 70, but man, oh man, this has got to be, if this isn't on our greatest hits album, I don't know what is. Joe Bonamassa along with Don Mclean. What a show. And before we get to those guys, let me bring my brothers to the microphone, our co-hosts, and again, my lateral brother, not my younger, not my older. Let's bring him, Vinnie Appice. What's up, brother? Or the plumber. We're going to call you the plumber. It's the drum monster. It's the drum plumber. We're going to call you now.
Drum plumber. Hey, that clip looks like I'm running for president or something.
I know.
Maybe I should run for president.
Well, you know what? And anybody can get elected these days. That's obvious. So
yeah, I can fix everybody's plumbing too.
I got let's see, 2 faucets in every pot. You promise.
I looked online for a plumber's pillow, and it just says plumber's pillow on the pillow. Something like bent would be good. You know, you're laying down and you're getting killed on your back and your spine with the lip.
Because you actually did your plumbing in your place today.
Yesterday and today,
house.
Yes.
Do your own plumbing. And
I got 2 more to go.
You need a plumber's pillow. Why don't we call the My Pillow guy? I'm sure he'd help you.
Actually, my girl Leslie has 2 My Pillows.
See that? So you got a new product.
She won't let me use them. She says they're my pillows. They're her pillows. So.
Well, you can have a product out there. Vinny's My Plumber's Pillow. I think you should.
My plumber's pillow, and it doubles as a bass drum muffle.
And people don't give that enough credit. The value of an age-old pillow in the bass drum.
I don't put pillows in the bass drum.
Not anymore.
A lot of people do. No, yes. I hated those things. Well, the music I play, I don't need to deaden it up. Oh, I need to make it louder.
I know you do. So speaking of loud, let's bring our big brother to the microphone, the legend himself, Carmine Appice. Where are you at there, brother?
I'm the original loud.
He's the original loud.
But I'm got louder.
He got louder. Vinny's the louder.
So where are you, Carm?
I'm in New York.
You in New York. Now you at your, literally.
I need some light on my face. Look at this.
Yeah, you're dark.
New York light.
Yeah, I'm really dark. I don't know. That's the office. I mean, what can I say?
What are you doing in New York?
I'm getting ready to go to Buffalo tomorrow. I'm doing an in-store at a book place record with Jim Crean tomorrow, a singer from Drum Wars. And then,
right.
And then Saturday we're doing a Vanilla Fudge show up there, and then driving down to New York, and we're doing 2 nights at Sunny Hall.
I thought that was the bookstore. Is that a porno bookstore? That's what I heard.
Yeah, it is a porno bookstore.
See, I knew it.
Do they even exist anymore?
See, Vinny knows everything.
It's on the internet. It's all over the place.
I know. Hey, guys, we got such a.
Yeah,
really, I gotta say.
But we're here, and it's interesting to be here in New York. With all the, we went to eat yesterday. And I had to show them a validation that I was vaccinated and my proof of my ID. It's crazy.
Yeah. I had to show them a library card.
Yeah, I showed him my senior citizen's train card
because they didn't believe you how to read. It's a look at you, Vinny.
Hey, Ron, you're cutting out. You're cutting out.
Why are you cutting out?
Your microphone.
I don't know. There's internet issues here in Chicago.
I don't know why that always happens when we get going.
How about,
I think Ron gets excited and he breathes heavy into the microphone. That's what
it is.
Screws it all up.
No, I tell you what, Chicago's had a massive internet challenge last 2 days.
So you're so breaking up. I don't know why.
Yeah, you're breaking up. You might have to reboot yourself.
Yeah. Let me see here. Well, we'll give it a try.
Okay. We'll try and bring somebody on and see if it works. Oh, he's rebooting us. Hi, Vin.
Hey, what are you doing? Hey, what was I going to say? Oh, I'm coming into Florida to do a rock camp on the 5th.
Of what?
I'm leaving of January. So let's hook up one of those nights. I'm finished at 9 o'clock. Or something.
Yeah, okay. Definitely.
It's at the Hard Rock Hotel.
Yeah, that's 45 minutes from me.
Okay, you want to hook up?
20 minutes. Yeah, we can hook up.
I was
That'd
going
be
to stay a day, but then I missed my drum stream, so
Yeah,
I don't want to do that.
yeah.
So, and then we come back.
Stay a day for what?
What's that?
What'd you say? You were going to stay a day?
I was going to stay an extra day, go see the house and shit, but then it blows my Tuesday out. I'll have to try flying
Oh,
Tuesday.
you should do your drum thing from my house. I got a good drum sound going there.
Yeah, but you don't have streaming set up, so I have to do it from
No.
here. But
No.
I'm coming back. There's another camp in Florida on February, and then we're playing Key West in January, and a couple of days.
Key West is way far.
We're doing some dates to drive down there from the north.
Yeah. Okay.
A couple of dates. So I'm coming to visit.
All right. Good. Good. You can come see the studio you built.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know, every time we do this, maybe we should introduce.
Yeah, let's bring Joe on.
Let's bring Joe on and Don, and hopefully Ron will come back. Okay. There's Joe.
There's Joe.
Hello, fellas.
Joe Bonamassa.
There's Don.
Hey, Don. How you doing?
I'm here.
You got to think though. It's like Carmine. You and I are literally blocks away. Literally blocks away.
I know. It's unbelievable.
We could have did it together.
And it's like because we've done this thing on these little boxes for a year and a half that this is what we're used to. It'd be like, hey man, you could probably hear me from my building. You know.
Yes, probably. How long are you going to be in New York?
I'm gonna be here for a week.
We're playing Monday and Tuesday at Sony Hall with Vanilla Fudge.
I'll be there.
With,
I'll be there.
Robbie Krieger too. Robbie Krieger as well.
Oh wow, that'd be great. I have nothing on. That'd be great.
Yeah, oh good. I'll put you on the list. You know.
I'd love to come. I'll text you confirm. But yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
We're starting up in Springfield, Massachusetts, and
I know. I heard. I did an interview today. I've been doing interviews all day today. I released 2 videos, one on 2 days ago and one today for my Guitars project.
right.
And I've been doing interviews all day. And one guy said that you're coming to Springfield, Mass on the 13th or 12th of December or something.
Yeah, and the whole band and crew is complaining about the prospects of flying into Springfield or these small airports.
Yeah.
So I just said, you know what, I'll come to New York and I'm taking an Uber the day before. I'm just going to take an Uber up there. It's like,
I'll tell you, I have to take an Uber. I'm going to LaGuardia tomorrow. Usually I get this car service, but the only thing available is stretch limos.
That's old school, man.
Get out of here, man. That's crazy. Yeah. So I got an Uber. I'll see if.
What's the David Spade joke? Do you know the David Spade joke about stretch limos?
No.
It's like he tells a great joke. It's like what do you think when you see somebody roll up with a stretch limo? You go, ooh, somebody has $80. That was funny.
And Don, where are you? Are you in New York area?
No, I'm in California. I'm just outside of Palm Springs. I've been here for the last 2 years since this thing started.
All right.
The last show we did was like February, almost 2 years ago.
Wow.
I've done some other things, but I've been here. I like it. It's great.
Somebody's got Don too loud in their speaker because it's delaying. You have a speaker on?
Ron came on.
I'm getting a lot of slap echo here.
Ron? Ron's got a problem tonight.
It sounds like I'm on Sun Records.
There you go. Ron's got a problem tonight.
It sounds like I'm on Sun Records.
Oh, boy. It's unbelievable.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I wanted to say hello to Joe because can you hear me?
Yeah,
I can hear you.
Yeah.
I saw an interesting YouTube, and I know how successful you are, and you've really exploded in the last few years about your love of amplifiers.
Yeah.
And I thought it was very interesting because I know a lot of guitar players. You know, I mean, I had a band for 20 years out on the road and worked with some great players. And all you guys are into your amplifiers, and especially some of the older ones, right? The tube amplifiers, and
Well, yeah. I mean, most of them are tube. Even now, I mean, even the new ones. I mean, think about the technology gap. Like us guitar players are the last people that use 1/4-inch cables. You know, vacuum tubes. You know, we're like the steam powered cars of the music business. It's like you're like, oh my god. But if you're interested in an amplifier, if you want to see a decent one that most people don't get to see, this one here is these are pretty fun. This is a Dumble amplifier.
He's got them all over the place.
And yeah, I got them everywhere. But the reality is, you know, the reality is like, you know, the sounds in your hand. Just everything is tactile. Drums is tactile. I mean, you sit down at Vinnie's set. Vinnie, you can sit down at Carmine's set. You sound like Vinnie. You sound like Carmine. It doesn't matter. It's all tactile within your hands.
Right. That's right.
And you know, I mean, same thing with you know, singers and microphones. It's like, well, you know, this. I remember being at Abbey Road, and they were like, "This is the microphone John Lennon sang on." You know, for. You know what on Revolver? I'm like, well, this didn't write those songs. You know, who's gonna write?
I carry my own microphone and my own cable, and the cable is a little bit fatter than normal, so I get like more acoustic guitar signal through it. And I carry an Electro Voice. I think it's a 951 or something like that. Just a great vocal mic that nobody seems to have, but and I hate Shure mics. They always have those, and I say, God, they're awful, you know, but they're indestructible. So you know that's why they have them.
Yeah. Ron, are you with us? Ron, oh, man, Ron's having problems today, man.
I'm having problems. How about now?
No, Ron's having not Don. Ron. Ron usually hosts it, but apparently me and Vinnie are hosting it tonight. So
Don, I have a question for you.
Sure.
And I've always wondered this because I can answer the question for the three of you who've had many hit songs. I've never had a hit song in my life. I've had a bunch of near misses and some popular ones among my fan base. When you wrote American Pie, did you know it was a hit? Did the record company know it was a hit?
Yeah, the record company bought the record label I was on because of that song. I was on a record label called Media Arts Records, and it was run by Alan Livingston, who made Capitol Records into the great record company that it now is. He signed the Beach Boys, he signed Sinatra, he signed the Beatles, he signed all these people and made that into a new label. He quit and wanted to start his own company, and he started Media Arts Records, and he was very proud to have discovered me, and he had several other people. He had Spencer Davis, made a couple of albums for him, and a lady who was a songwriter named Dory Previn, who was Andre Previn's wife, wrote some interesting songs. So he had this little stable, and the record company couldn't make it. So United Artists was trying to turn itself. This is back in 1970, 71. They were trying to turn themselves into a real record label instead of being, you know, Ferranti and Teicher and releasing all the United Artists movie soundtracks. That's what they were. A horrible label. All right. They didn't know anything about anything. And it was the worst place. I didn't want to be there, but I was glad they saved my ass because they bought the company and bought this record, and they made it short, like 3 minutes, and just a lot of chorus and a couple of the verses, and it went to number one. And then people bought the album. It all came out at the same time, and they said, that's not the song. And so they started playing the 8-minute version off the album when they would play the top 40. So that's how that kind of happened.
Great.
Wow.
So like for me, like with Rod Stewart, when we did the thing I'm Sexy that I co-wrote, you know,
I love that song. I love that record too.
And you did that with Tom Dowd, right?
We did it with Tom Dowd, exactly. Right. And Tom Dowd hooked me up with this kid that I just did an instrumental album with. It's called A Peace Perdomo Project. And
is that song in Casino?
No.
Do you think I'm sexy?
Maybe it was. I'm not
I think
sure.
a part of it is that
Yeah,
incredible.
there's
a
you know what's
beautiful-
funny? I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. We were talking about how mechanicals are really down now, because of the way the industry is. So I said, the only good thing now about having a big song is for a commercial or a TV commercial or a movie or something, right? So what happens is you would think, do you think I'm sexy? We only had one commercial in the last 40 years. You would think with a name like, do you think I'm sexy? What would you think a good commercial would be, Joe, for do you think I'm sexy?
Chocolate chip cookies.
Well, I mean, if you weren't canceled,
Yeah.
I would say a good TV commercial for "Do You Think I'm Sexy" would be something like, a car commercial.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. Like a Cadillac or a
Cadillac or a BMW.
Yeah.
It's a luxury brand.
Yeah.
To me, it's
Can I just tell you something?
Secret, Well, you know what it was? What happened?
What?
We lost time now. Chips Ahoy.
See, I told you.
now we're three.
Huh?
Now we're
Chips
three.
Ahoy. Now we're
just the Italian group. Okay, we're down to just the Italians.
Yeah, man.
No, so finish the story. Like that's a great. Like, what did it end up being?
Chocolate chip.
Wow.
Chocolate chip.
Chocolate
Chips
chip.
Ahoy.
That's what I said.
Crazy.
I remember that.
Vinnie knew that. Yeah. But you know what? You talked about having hits, and you didn't have hits. But remember when we were going to do Bonamassa, Bogra the Peace back in 15 years ago, whatever it was. And then you were playing BB Kings. I used to come down and jam with you, and then, we didn't do it. And then like 2 or 3 years later, you were like huge. How did you do that?
How did I do that?
How did you guys do that?
I can tell you this. In the States, my trajectory was a lot different than it would have been in Europe. In Europe, it scaled a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Like, for some reason, I went over to Holland and England and Germany and even Scandinavia and down to Italy and Spain.
Yeah.
For some reason, my records were being traded over there at a rate that was exponentially higher than they were here in the States. So I would go over there and be able to draw a crowd. And we were able to scale to big theaters pretty quickly. And then we ended up doing this DVD at the Royal Albert Hall in 2009. And I remember my manager and I, we applied for a bank loan to try to fund this thing because it was a major production to make a DVD. It was $250,000.
Yeah.
Mostly there.
We didn't have $250,000 to do it, and because we wanted to do it right. It's like broken watches right twice a day. And guess what? If it's the greatest souvenir I play for my family at Christmas, so be it.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we made this DVD, and there was a PBS affiliate in Albany that fixated on the fact that Eric Clapton was nice enough to come out and sit in with us, which I could never repay that debt of gratitude I owe him.
Yeah, sure.
And the other thing was, so they ran it as a pledge drive. So in PBS world, you score between a 1 and a 5. I think it's either 1 being the best and 5 being the worst, or 5 like whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it scored so high that they thought it was a fluke. It raised the most money in that hour in the history of that one affiliate. They ran it again, and they still raised money. So because I was the edgiest thing on PBS at the time, and probably still am, because it was really at that point, like, their programming was like Nova, Antiques Roadshow, which I loved, Austin City Limits on Saturdays,
Sesame Street.
They would do Sesame Street, Reading Rainbow, and at night they would run like Celtic Women.
Right.
They would run like some Lawrence Welk stuff. I remember watching this.
Yeah.
Here I am at the Royal Albert Hall with Eric Clapton on Channel 8 in Los Angeles, where ABC is on 7, back in the time when it didn't matter anymore. The major networks and the cable networks were all, it was amalgamated into one big giant.
One big deal. Yeah.
And the whole thing just exploded. And next thing you know, we're selling out.
Because somebody told me it was at PBS special, so we were watching it one day, not long ago. They keep running it, and somebody said this is the thing that broke Joe.
That was the boom. Yeah.
I said, wow.
In Europe, I mean, instrumentalists, jazz, the guitar as an art form. You got the Umbria Jazz Festival in Italy. I mean, the appreciation for what you do as an art form that's another reason why it kicked off so big out there versus America. Europe wasn't clouded with some of the pop stuff.
Well, the European market is totally clouded with the pop stuff as well. It's just people are raised on culture. Every single one of us in this conversation can attest to the strength and the loyalty of those fans in Europe.
Yeah,
big time.
Because at the end of the day, when you go over there as an American artist, they look at it. It's like this exotic is has come from afar.
Special coming over,
and God forbid if you come armed with a bag full of killer songs like you all have, and
you
in any language sing it back to you. I mean, like Don, you must have had American Pie sung back to you in so many languages.
I've done like
it's transcended that amount of people.
25. I've done probably 25 world tours, so I've been busy. I've never stopped since 1968, except for this pandemic time here.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've had tremendous experiences with these people. I remember in Ireland the first time I played there. I think the whole audience got out of the theater and came across the street to the hotel. So like 2,000 to 3,000 people in the streets.
Wow.
In front of the Gresham Hotel, right across from the Odeon Theater, which they used to have. That was things have changed, as you all know. I mean, playing theaters, 2,000, 3,000 seats, playing Carnegie Hall. This was probably the biggest thing you could do back in the 60s, and then started to break out and become more bigger places, and then everything exploded with Michael Jackson and the Bee Gees selling 28 million records, but it's shrunk down now, in terms of record sales. And I don't know how you tell. I don't know how you tell what's selling and where it's selling. It's all very confusing. I have just been certified by the RIAA as having sold more than 50 million records in worldwide.
Wow.
And that's,
congratulations.
Well, that's all kinds of records, albums, singles, all this stuff. But how the heck do they know? How do they keep track of all this stuff?
I was thinking that the other day, like how do they know? How do they keep track of all this stuff now? How many streams is considered, a sale?
It's weighted. It's weighted now, Carmine, to where it's like it's hundreds of thousands of stream equals one sale, because I just went through this with the Billboard chart.
Wow.
And they penalize artists like myself and people like us that actually still sell records to a very loyal, thank God, fan base.
Yeah.
Because my strength is not in streaming. My strength is in sales.
Yeah.
And it's weighted. It's a certain amount of streams weighted against, and it's some crazy equation that means nothing. Because it's like this: if you were a McDonald's or let's say you own Baskin Robbins, a franchise, and your daily output of your cash input or whatever is like, I gave away 100,000 free samples and sold 2 ice cream cones. We had a great day.
That's exactly right.
One on the chart.
Interesting things is going on now with Universal buying all these catalogs from artists like Dylan and so on, because what I've heard through people that I know in Nashville, my people that do a lot of this work, they said basically they're going to start to have huge amount of clout and start raising the amount of money that they're going to want for this stuff, which will benefit all of us. Yeah, but great. That's the plan. But I just can't. I don't know what you guys think about this, but I can't see selling a record catalog, for even if it's $300 million, you're going to get a third of that taken away in taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't get that.
And might be more.
Well,
definitely.
What I've heard the strategy in that is they're paying between 17 and 20 times earnings versus your catalog. So if you, let's say you make $1 million on a year per average, and they go back 4 or 5 years, and it's per average, let's say it's or 10,000, they'll give you 200 grand. And the logic is they're betting on streaming in the long term, because even if they put a lot of money into it, in perpetuity, if they own 50,000 titles, these gigantic investment firms, they like while we've been talking, Universal Music has streamed 8 million things at fraction of pennies, but in 25 minutes of conversation, they've made actual money without actually having to print anything, deal with return.
Yeah, because I mean, basically, they're investing in something. This is what I think. Basically, you have an asset that they are investing in, and there's no place to put anything because money's not worth anything right now. You can't get a percentage on it.
Yeah.
So they're buying your asset because they're not stupid.
Right.
You've got what they want. Why wouldn't you want to hold on to that? You're already made the best investment you could make, and they're trying to get it away from you, and they're not going to give you what it's worth.
Right, and it's the last money you'll ever see. I mean,
That's
it's
right.
It's just like a record company advance. It'd be like, well, if you get $50 advance from a record company, don't expect any more.
Well, if Dylan,
exactly right there, bro.
If Dylan was making $2 million a year from his songs, he makes much more than that. That's still 10% on $200 million, which is the net that he's going to get out of that deal if it's $300 million, because songs it's like a house. If you buy a house and you put $100,000 into it and the house appreciates to $500,000 and you sell it, you're going to pay capital gains on $400,000. But songs start at zero. They're not worth anything when they start. So you wait 50 years later and suddenly you sell a catalog for $100 million. That whole thing is taxed by capital gains.
The capital gains, right?
I could still see the value in somebody like Bob Dylan, who's in his early 80s or about to turn 80, and be like, do I really want to spend the rest of my life chasing royalties?
Right.
From 50 different sources, or do I just get a big check and it's someone else's problem?
I can't see that at all. I cannot see that. Universal is very good at chasing royalties. Believe me.
This is the most business-like show we've ever done.
Oh, that's for sure.
Well, it's a good one though, because the people who are listening should know that
how it works.
It's show business. You know what I mean?
That's right. Exactly right. This show business.
And we like the applause.
And you know what? Just about show business. I remember, Joe, when you were like 13 or 14 years old, when we did that Leo Fender show in California.
Yeah.
You remember that? You were just like a young prodigy guy. That's how long you've been in it.
I do remember that. It was in Irvine, California, and you were on the bill.
Yeah.
I remember meeting Steve Lukather.
Yeah, all the guitar players from
Steve
LA that played a Stratocaster.
Yep, and that's like I still have the original poster that a guy named Leland Jeffries gave me on that day, and I kept it.
Wow,
and
that's cool.
He was the organizer. I kept a few of the early things.
You were a little squirt then.
And I was just, it's funny. I mean, like the other day I celebrated it, and it's at least for me as a milestone. I mean, the 32nd anniversary of my first professional gig, and I'm 44 years old. So I mean, I literally started just before I turned 12. And
crazy. You set the bar for all these other guitarists that are coming out now. People, even I've got the Arcada Theater in St. Charles. I had Kenny Wayne last week. I got Buddy Guy next week.
Nice.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. But it's actually the theater that, I don't know, Don, if you remember a few years back, we brought our governor of Illinois on stage because you and Judy Collins were on stage. and he actually made it.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was Don McLean Day in the state of Illinois, and he
Oh,
presented.
Wow,
nice.
yes,
you and
I
Judy.
remember that. Yeah,
Nice.
there's so many things that happen, that you don't remember. I forgot that completely, but thank you for reminding me. I remember it now. And
Put it
but
in your book.
I want to ask Joe a question.
Yes, sir.
Is there a guitar that you particularly like that you use all the time, or do you use a lot of different ones?
I use a lot of different ones. I look at guitars. I serve two masters. I'm a guitar collector on one side, a really horribly addicted guitar collector, and then I'm a guitar player. So the guitar player answer is I need a toolbox. I need a hammer. I need a screwdriver set. I need a ruler, a level, and some nails. So I need a Tele, a Strat, 335, a Martin acoustic, a Gibson acoustic, Les Paul, Stratocaster, the usual suspects.
But do you like, let's say with a Stratocaster, do you want an old one, or do you?
I don't own any new guitar. Yeah, I think I own about 475 guitars. I think I own 5 new ones.
Wow.
Well, I probably have 75 guitars myself. This is what happens when you play this instrument.
Right. I got one.
I fell in love with Martin guitars, and I have D45s and D41s and basically D28s, and I love the mid 50s, early 50s for those, because you got to figure the same guys were making those in the mid 50s that were making them in the 1940s.
Yeah, correct.
So it's the same guitar, really, except you go back to the 40s, you're going to pay $100,000. And if you buy them in the early 50s, you pay 7 or 8. So,
right. And, the thing about guitars is the part of my most of my collection of guitars is very well preserved mint examples of Americana solid body. I'm a solid body collector.
Yeah.
Stuff that was made between 1950 and 1964. And that's kind of what I collect.
There you go. Right.
I do have a couple of Martins.
I stop you guys right there. Vinnie, how many drums you have?
Right now, probably about 4 or 5 sets.
Yeah, I got a bunch of sets. I got a locker in LA that when I die, my kids are going to hate me because I got so much stuff in there. And I got some old snare drums like you, like a 1940 Slingerland, 1924 Ludwig snare drum, stuff like that.
But they're not worth the guitar price.
No, nothing like you got. Like 475 guitars. I can't even imagine.
100 amps.
Ridiculous. You guys are unbelievable.
I have just as many guitar amps as guitars. I have about 450. Yeah.
Where do you keep them, Joe? Where do you keep it?
Most of them are on display in various residences, mostly in Nashville and LA. They're on display. Mostly LA. It's okay.
Are you still on Los Feliz Boulevard in LA?
No, I'm in Laurel Canyon now, and I've been there for a while. And the thing about collecting is like you have to look at it. It's just like anything else. It's like these things will outlive us all, and everything's gonna go to someone else one day. So my job is just to be a good custodian and a good host, and try to keep these things in the same condition as when I found them.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you something. For about 20 years or more, I used maybe 4 guitars and hundreds and thousands of shows and traveled all over the world with them. And they got beat up pretty good. And I found a great luthier about 30 years ago and took those guitars and had all the work done on them that should have been done right,
Wow.
And then I bought the best case there was, and I put it in there, and I put it away, and that is it. I just put it right back, better than it even was before after all those years of work. And then I went with another 4 or 5 guitars, which I'm still. But I'm going to have a big auction with Julian's auction house, and I'm at the stage where I'm going to get rid of all this stuff that's in that locker and everywhere else.
Why not?
God, thank you. That's what I need to do.
Yep.
I got some classic stuff too, and it's like
you keep paying storage.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Do you have a guitar? Do you have a guitar in your collection that is a bona fide songwriter? You know what I mean? You're like, there's sometimes like little wacky guitars you just pick up, and all of a sudden a great song or the songs just flow out of it, and then there's these other things that just
I have a mid '80s D41 that I take everywhere in the world, and I
what
take
is a D41? Explain with that to the audience, because they're rockers. They're not
Martin D4. The D41's made in the 1970s, early 70s, and this isn't an early 70s one. It's a mid 80s one. But yeah, I write. I've done a lot of songwriting. Just the right. This feels right, and it is right. But
how about the guitar you wrote American Pie on?
I don't have that. I gave that to somebody.
Wow.
Does that person know that that's the guitar that you wrote American Pie with?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Wow.
Carmine,
I also gave the song Vincent was #1, and that's just me and guitar basically.
Yeah.
And that guitar I gave away to a friend, a kid that I knew, and he still has it.
Wow. We're talking about Joe. You mentioned where you live, Laurel Canyon. And we obviously know the history of Laurel Canyon. And I think about Carole King, and I think about her album Tapestry, and then Don, which came out in '71. Obviously, your album '71 Tapestry. Was there any kind of a confusion or any reason why that happened?
I sold 250,000, and she sold 200 million. So no, there was no confusion.
Hey, Joe, did you see the movie called it's on Netflix about Laurel Canyon?
Yeah, Echoes of the Canyon.
Okay, you see the big guitar player that's in there? He's the guy I did my new instrumental album with.
Kelly.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And he's a great player. So when you said the Canyons, I thought about that.
My question is, when are they going to fix that street?
Oh God, never. Honestly, I've lived in Los Angeles 20 years. I've been going down Laurel Canyon, especially south of Mulholland.
Yeah.
20 years. I've lived in Laurel Canyon 7 years. I know every pothole. When you see me drive down during the day, it looks like I'm driving drunk because that guy's all over the road. I'm like, no, I'm avoiding door dings and tires. It's awful. It's the worst.
Terrible.
It's really.
Yeah.
I haven't been on it in a while, and I went recently, and it's still the same. I couldn't believe it. Same road.
And I have old cars, so I have to be especially careful because I've broken shocks on that road.
Why, you can't afford a new one?
No, listen, I'm a blues guy, Carmine. I'm just hustling here.
He's working out.
What do you got, a 56 T-Bird or something?
Yep.
I got a bunch of 30s cars. I got a 32 Ford. I got a couple of 30s.
Nice. Like Jeff Beck. Jeff Beck has all that.
Yeah, they're like hot.
Did you ever go to Jeff's house in London, outside England?
No.
Where he was. He builds them himself, all the Model Ts and all that stuff. It's really
builds them himself.
He builds them. It's
scary
himself.
when you're a guitar player.
Yeah.
Hey Joe, what do you collect other than cars and guitars and amplifiers? I see you're a collector. I can feel that.
That's it.
That's
I collect. I collect point of purchase signs, like you see behind my right shoulder here. Well, it looks like your left, right. Is a point of purchase Fender clock from the '60s. I collect old Fillmore posters.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
How about? Do you like watches? Are you into watches or not?
I am not into watches. I have a couple of nice ones that I bought a long time ago when I was like young and thought I was like a hot shot.
Sure.
You go into Ben Bridge and you're like you put your credit card down and all of a sudden you get a green box. I'm like, oh cool. I made it, And but no, I like collect stuff.
I was going to say, do we have that surprise video?
We do have that video of you guys.
For Joe, I want to show video.
Oh God!
Surprise video for Joe.
All right,
not you, man.
Surprise that we want to show you. 3 icons together.
Is this you, Timmy? You, Timmy, and I?
Yeah. What is it? Is this the beginning? What is that? What happened to it?
You got to hit play.
Hit play. There you go.
Unmute it.
Where was this?
This was at a NAMM show.
That's right, at the Grove.
Yes.
Yeah, at Grove and Anaheim.
Me, you and Timmy. Bonamassa, Bogan, and the Beast. And Superstition.
And this was what, 2006 or 7?
2006, I think. I think it might have been 2007, actually.
Yeah.
That's 15 years old. You could
I
have
think
started
Warren
it
Haynes
later,
was there.
Dan.
What did he say?
It's Tim is gone now. Tim is in heaven.
Yeah. Wow, what a treat, dude. I haven't seen this forever.
Me too. Yeah. God bless you, Tim.
Yeah.
And you knew the whole thing. You know, you knew the whole part.
Well, I wore that record out. You know,
Yeah, man.
when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It was just the heaviest takes on stuff. You know what I mean?
You know that
It's still
Jeff played the solo in that. He was tuned to speed. Right? He was tuned the guitar to speed. It was like rubber band when he played that solo. Yeah, nice. All right. We got enough? You seen enough?
Yeah,
That's
cool.
awesome.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
And Don McLean, you're on our show. Thank you very much for being here. And we just
I
can't.
enjoyed it.
Well, no, we're not done yet. We just can't. I can't not talk a moment about American Pie and its 50th anniversary here. Has it actually hit you? You opened the show by saying you've sold over 50 million records, but to have the song that is number 5 in history, and the only songs that are more, I guess the word popular, is Over the Rainbow by Judy Garland.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Land is Your Land by Woody Guthrie, and Respect by Aretha Franklin. That's it. To have that song, I mean, has it ever hit you like, holy smokes, this is something truly major?
Well, I know I'm on some kind of a train. I don't know where it's headed, but I know it's going fast.
Yeah.
Oh, I did want to ask you, obviously American Pie, there's all kinds of stories around it, all kinds of legends about it. And one of the things that was really interesting is just how, I guess the word is evasive you were about the song. People were trying to understand line by line really what you're referring to or really what you meant. Were you intentionally evasive just to become?
No, let me just explain something about that. In the song, I mentioned James Dean.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'd wanted to call the king Elvis, I would have said Elvis. If I'd wanted to say the jester was Dylan, I would have said Dylan. But the king in the song has a thorny crown, and only Christ had a thorny crown. So there's all sorts of levels, and that's why I don't want to mess it up by bowing to this need that people have in order to make everything, what they think it should be. It's a dream. I was trying to do something. I did this for me. I didn't do it for the public. I had the most fun writing this thing because I was trying to write a dream, an impressionistic thing. And at the same time, I was trying to capture something about the United States and write a big song about the country, which wasn't This Land Is Your Land.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't America the Beautiful. It wasn't some of these kinds of songs, Jackhammer John or Roll on Columbia, the kind of things that Woody Guthrie did in the 1930s to show about the grandeur and the power of the people in the country. I wanted to get something that showed the craziness of this country, and it's the genius. It's like a crazy genius, America. It's got its moments of being lucid and civil, and then there's other moments where it's a mass murderer, and
yeah, right.
And that's the country. So I wanted to, and I did it. but I did it for me, and I had no idea, because it was 9 minutes long almost, that it would be brought. People selected this. This is the people's choice. The people doing this list at the turn of the century, there were rock and roll guys. They were guys that didn't give a rat's ass about Don McLean. And all of a sudden they started getting back from everywhere they looked that American Pie was it. This was the people's choice. And nothing that I did.
Yeah.
You know, I have a question about American Pie. The first time you sang it in front of an audience before it was a hit, did you beta test the song? Like even when the record came out, before it became number one, did it seem familiar to the audience? Meaning when you went,
you have to understand. You have to understand. I'm not like you guys. First of all, I'm not a professional songwriter. I'm a rambler. I've rambled all my life, and I ramble, and I try things out here, things there. I do little things. I do big things. And so I was at the time. I just was a kid, and it was so exciting because I'd signed with William Morris, and this Tapestry thing had just come out, and I was suddenly opening to all these great people. And I opened a show to Laura Nero, who was one of my favorite singers and songwriters. And she didn't get anywhere, but she was really, really great. Like Tim Hardin, another great one I loved. But so I was opening, and then it was at St. John's University, or St. Joseph's University there in Philadelphia. And so I had a kid come up and hold the lyrics, some little girl, because I'd just written them all out and I couldn't remember them. And I sang it, and the audience said, that was okay. Nothing all that great. So, but it was the record, really. Ed Freeman, the producer, I found him, and he didn't really want to work with me. But I knew he was the guy, and I lucked I was right. I certainly could have been wrong.
Mm-hmm. It's really incredible. Joe, with all the recordings you've done, I think I don't know, I saw like 70 something, I'm sure.
Sure.
I love the Ryman live album. But you've done so many collaborations. We had your new label mate, Dion, on the show last week or the week before. We're talking.
National treasure that guy is. Come on.
Oh my God.
Another Italian.
But what about the story? What about the story? I was just talking to Bobby Rydell last night, and he's a good friend of Dion's, and he said that story about him getting, he didn't want to pay $36 to go on the plane that killed, Richie Valens and the Big Bopper and all that, because he wanted to give the $36 to his mother for the rent.
Right.
Saved his life.
Wow.
Unbelievable story. Unbelievable.
But Joe, all those collaborations you've done, I'm such a huge fan of Beth Hart and your Black Coffee album. How did you guys get together, you and Beth Hart? Because that is a magical, they're all great, of course, but that is such a magical.
Yeah, she's awesome with you.
Well, I met Beth. I obviously had heard her name because she had a hit on the radio with a song called, I believe it was called California Song, back in the mid 90s. And I saw her on TV. She had done a couple of who is that handsome devil in the cover of that and she had done a couple of she'd done a couple of TV shows. I was familiar with Beth Hart, and she kind of disappeared off the radar screen. And I ran into her in her band in Lucerne, Switzerland, and we were playing a festival with the strangest name in the history of festivals, but I guess it translates well into Swiss German. It's called the Blue Balls Festival.
Right.
And okay, listen,
all been there.
Listen.
Speaking of blue balls, I got to run. I got to go do another thing.
All right.
Anyway, nice to see you guys.
Great to see you, Vinnie.
Nice to meet you, Don. I'll see you guys.
Thank you.
I'll call you tomorrow.
All right, call me tomorrow. See you guys. Thanks. Bye.
So long story short, she's opening for us. It's one of those festivals where you're it's a la carte show, so it's all week. So it's a headliner opener. We're headlining. It's 2009 and summer, and she opens up for us, and her manager I saw me watching her show and was like, hey, comes up and we all love David. And he comes up to me and he's like, so what do you think? And I guess I was a little ornery or just a little tired that day. And I just basically said to him, I said, it's like watching Big Brother in the holding company. And he smiles and he goes, "Oh man, thank you so much." People say that all the time. And I said, I wasn't paying you a compliment. And
Oh.
and I said, it's like watching the world's greatest singer with a band that's struggling to keep up with that.
Wow.
And I remembered her set, and we ended up in Santorini making a record a couple months later. And I had downloaded from iTunes back when it was in the infancy stage, the Get Your Ya-Ya's Out full set collection, which was the whole Stone show. But what I really wanted was the B.B. King set, and then it came free with an Ike and Tina set. And I played the whole damn thing, and I'm just sitting there late at night listening to it. And the Ike and Tina set comes on, and it was just these ripping, amped up soul covers, like, Proud Mary. They were doing Come Together. It was a soul review. It was like pop music, soul review, but just devastating. And I go, Beth Hart. And I ran it, and I explained this to my producer, Kevin Shirley, and he goes, I love it. So we reached out to them and said, hey, listen, would you be willing to do a record? Just want to do a record of just like, let's pick some songs that we all love, that obviously not the well-worn paths, and just see what happens if we just put a crack band around you and let her do her thing. And to her credit, she rises to the occasion. She's one of the world's greatest, and has so much facility. She doesn't even know where it ends. It's almost infinite. And she's one of the most, if not the most talented singers I've ever seen, and I would ever have the privilege of working with. Her and Glenn Hughes and Paul Rogers and people of that stature I've graced the stage with, and I put her right up there with the greatest of all time. So what started off as not a compliment turns out to be one of the highest compliments I can ever give to someone musically, is that she's one of the greatest of all time.
She really is. And I tell you, she did that rendition. I know you're obviously very familiar with of "I'd Rather Go Blind" with Jeff Beck on the Kennedy Center. What a tremendous.
That was our arrangement, by the way. That was our arrangement of it. Yeah. She just traded up. She just traded one JB for the next and got a better deal.
That's what we were trying to do on that Superstition.
Wow. I'm not, yeah.
Well, I don't know about traded up or down, but just traded.
Traded. You're trading JBs.
Yeah, man.
So Don, we've got Vincent. There's Starry Starry Night, and another. When I don't think people know that. I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Starry Starry Night was actually a bigger song than American Pie.
Well, it got higher on the charts all around the world, but it wasn't bigger than that one. It was different.
I meant at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It went in on the tail. It rode the coattails, really. That song would never ever have gotten on the charts if it hadn't been for the phenomenon of the first one.
Sure.
And the fact that the album was a juggernaut. I mean, there were a lot of other songs that could have come off that record, and today they probably would have put 4 singles out at least, but they didn't. And so that was a big surprise, but that helped me because, I put out something on my second album that was fundamentally unfollowable. And so I basically committed suicide, but the song resurrected me. So we say, wow, that's different. And it's really beautiful. And that's had its own history. It's also a lot of stuff's been written about it. And every time there's a Van Gogh exhibit, it gets tons of articles and everything. But, these, I just don't know where this, I'm sure we're all the same, how does this stuff happen? I don't know how it happened. I tell people, like, when I was a kid, I would see, I knew I wanted to do this by the time I was 15 years old. And I would see a door and I'd walk through the door. And all through the 60s, I was going to school, but then there were doors, and I'd walk through those doors, and I'd meet new people, who were in the other life that I was headed toward, not the straight life that I was doing, you know, with business and all that, you know, and I like business. That's why I brought it up before. But by the end of the 70s, the 60s rather, the doors were opening and I was meeting these more and more people and more things were happening. And I knew I was the right person at the right time with the right skills in those days. And it was very exciting because it all came together and it exploded. It exploded. And it was something that I had been building for 10 years.
Well, did you have a very unique relationship with Jim Croce?
Well, Jim Croce was a few years older than I was, and he was a much different person than people realize he was. The people they know of as Jim Croce was a persona in a way that he developed, but Jim was a serious student. He came from an Italian family in South Philadelphia, and they were serious about their education. And he was a psych major, and he was a couple of years older than me. I drifted onto that campus because my mother managed to get me in because she knew a priest who could pull some strings. I didn't want to go to college. I went there, brought my guitar and banjo, and all I did was practice all day. And he heard about me. He was 2 years older, 3 years older. And so he got in touch with me. He said, yeah, let's get together and play some music. So we did. And he knew all kinds of people, and he was a very warm and easygoing kind of a guy, very humorous, very funny. And so he'd take me around. I didn't drive for about 3 years till I was about 19. I couldn't get a license. I was the worst driver. And so everybody had to drive me places. And so we'd go out one night and we'd end up at some trailer and some guy with a mandolin, we're playing, some Jimmy Martin or some bluegrass, but it was all happening. The music was everywhere. People were making their own music, everywhere for the first time, because certainly before this, it was professional musicians, arrangers, orchestras, singers like Sinatra, these people who were skilled. After this started in the 50s and 60s, Elvis comes along. We're picking up guitars and we're playing Don't Be Cruel. And Don't Be Cruel wasn't that much different from This Land Is Your Land. There was just 3 chords. You could play all this stuff. Bebop, Alula, it didn't matter what it was. Any Everly Brothers song. And let me tell you one thing. The Everly Brothers were every bit as big as Elvis Presley in those days. They were just on the wrong record label. But everybody had an Everly Brothers record.
Sure.
The Everly Brothers were the Beatles.
They really were just before.
Yeah, hey, they sound like the Beatles,
I'd rather listen to the Everly Brothers than the Beatles or anybody. I mean, I love those guys.
Absolutely. Joe, I love watching, a lot of your videos. I love watching you live. Every time you come to Chicago, no matter if I have a show in one of my places, I blow it off and come to your show. I just really, really enjoy it. One of the guys on stage, you're just cool. When you're playing that guitar, it's like you and the guitar. The audience just be there. But for you, you've had so many great performances live on stage. Was there ever, can you tell me your biggest wow moment on stage you walked out when, holy cow?
Well, I mean, there's been a few. I mean, March 2020, I would be obviously when Eric Clapton came out and sat in with us at the Albert Hall was a big deal. And he knew it was a big deal to me, and he knew it was going to be a big deal to my career, which I cannot never thank him enough. We've had some great moments on DVDs. Our first time we played Red Rocks, sold out. Played all over the world and stuff like that. But honestly, now with the perspective change, you could mark down all these accomplishments. 2 nights at Carnegie Hall, Radio City, the whole 9. My greatest accomplishment now is when I walk out on stage, there's still people that come out and see me, and there's actual that remember, and I still have an audience, and I'm still blessed to be able to make music for a living. And that's to me, the great perspective change isn't about stats and, flexing and ticket sales and all that,
That's what Jack Nicholson said. He said, that guy's won 3 Oscars. He said, I know I'm a success. I've never had to take a day job.
Correct. And neither have I. And
I haven't had a day job since I was 15. I was a paper boy. That's the last job I ever had.
My last day job was 1964.
We've all been lucky.
And that was a funny one because I used to work, after high school. I never went to college. I had this job, and I guess what was the minimum wage? $1.25 an hour. And right, so I worked all week. At the end of the week, I'd take the train from Brooklyn into Manhattan, get up early. It was like a 10-hour day every day.
Yep.
Come back with $45.
Wow.
And I'd play on the weekend, and I'd make $200.
Right.
So I said to my father, I said, Pop, I got to really, I need your advice. He says, what? I said, I work all week. I make $45. I work on the weekend drumming, and I make $200, $150. What should I do? He says, well, it's obvious the money you make on the weekend. I said, good. So I quit my job.
Right.
Listen, that 45 was more than Dion made.
It saved his life, though.
We're talking about wow moments, Don McLean, and I know you've had literally hundreds of them also. But specifically in 1997, Garth Brooks has 500,000 people in Central Park, New York. And all of a sudden, well, why don't you tell me what happens?
Well, I got a fact. I've been hearing about this guy, Garth Brooks, for about 10 years. And each year he'd get bigger. And someone would say to me, well, there's this guy named Garth Brooks, and he plays American Pie every night. And he starts out, he played the local theater, and then he played the local then playing the local airplane hangar. And then he's, playing the local 50,000 seat stadium, whatever. Each year he was getting bigger and bigger. Each year I'd hear about this. So the word was that he was going to do this massive show in New York. And I was thinking, oh, that's nice. Good for him. I'm proud of him. So I get a fax. He wants me to be on the show. So I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to do this. This is somebody else's gig. But I said, I was in town. So I go over there anyway. And I said to myself, I said, if these people are jerks, and you can tell from the top down, if I run into one guy, all right, who gives me static, I'm saying, shove it. I'm out of here. All right. Every single person I ran into was fantastic. Just like he is. It comes from the top. And they were all great guys. So the one thing I'm noticing is this humongous stage. It's like a football field. And I'm thinking, man, I sure don't work. I don't work like that, So there are this big grating. I wear cowboy boots a lot of times on stage. Big grating, which has these, holes like that. And I took my boots. I wanted to make sure my heel didn't get stuck in one of those holes. Throw me on my face when I walk out there. And so that was all right. And so then we just, he said, well, you do this and I'll do that. And you do this. And we went out there. He introduced me, sang the slow part. And I just rammed into, let's sing it. Everybody did a couple of verses, and that was it. And that's the clip that went all over the world from that show. So that was terrific. And the next day it was fun.
Did Billy Joel appear on that too?
Yeah, you see, that's the thing. Billy Joel was on there for an hour, and they only remember that American Pie was on the show. It's the funniest thing. Yes, awesome. He was.
That's awesome.
Well, it's incredible, you guys. I got to say, this has been one of the top shows we've had. Insight, not only the historic insight, but also it was really wonderful to get that insight about the.
Yeah, it's interesting. A very interesting conversation today.
I'd like to say something to Joe. I think you have a great attitude, Joe.
Yeah,
thank you.
I think you're a guy who is still shocked at all the great things that have happened to you, and I think you're very thankful and you're very humble about it, and you're doing terrifically well. And I like to say you need to put yourself in your own movie.
Yeah.
And you put yourself in your own movie, and now you're in it. And I put myself in my own movie. We all did. And I want to say one other thing to you guys. I am half Italian.
Yeah.
Hey.
With the name Mclean, you wouldn't know that, but I'm more Italian than anything.
Really? How is that?
My mother's a Bucci, B-U-C-C-I, from Abruzzi.
Nice.
No kidding. Possibility we're related. And only one reason, truly, that Joe Bonamassa is so cool is because his birthday is May the 8th, and he shares it with Don Rickles and myself. So,
Hey.
and Don Nichols, former President Truman, and Robert Johnson.
There you go.
The blues, the great. I was born on Robert Johnson's 66th birthday. Not that his talent has anything to do with mine. It's totally unrelated. But it was.
On behalf of everybody, we beg to differ with you, Joe. You're right.
Well, I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah,
And honestly, nice to see everybody. Nice to be seen.
I'm going to text you about
enjoy the restaurant. It's a beautiful night out. I just got back.
Yeah, I'm going to go eat, and I'm going to text you for Monday or Tuesday. If you want to come, you let me know.
Yeah, I'm in town. Let's do it. I'd love to come see you.
Yeah, the boys would love to see you.
The legends and icons, once again, along with Vinnie and Carmine. Everybody, each week we are here Thursday nights. Artists on Lockdown, hanging and banging. Make sure you hit the like, the share. You go on our Facebook page, on our podcast. We're here every week, all over the place. Really got to thank the people who put this show on, all our producers. Read those credits at the end because they are the ones who get us guests like tonight, the legendary Don Mclean and the iconic Joe Bonamassa. We'll see you next week. Hanging and banging. Artists on Lockdown right here. Same bad time, same bad channel. Have a great week, guys. Good night.